I'm ChosenArchitect, and this is all the Modston. So just a few streams ago, we ended up setting up a little bit of mechanism infrastructure, and I ended up kind of moving on into some other things. But today we're actually going to be diving back into some more mechanism, and this is because we are going to need some infrastructure set up so that way not only can we craft a really powerful tool that I kind of want to get my hands on, but it's also going to be required for in-game of this pack if we want to craft that beautiful All the Mod Star. So it's time to get back into the sewer. Yeah, back into the sewer and continue working on building in here. And so I have these like little small rooms, but I think with mechanism, it requires some very large multi-block structures and some numbers to kind of note, right? 18 block tall is kind of a number that is pretty common within mechanism. So I have decided to design rooms that can support block structures that can go up to 21 blocks tall. However, 18 is going to be, for the most part, the maximum size. So you might be wondering, well, what machines or multi-blocks actually take up this amount of space? Well, distillation towers. So this hallway design right here is essentially going to lead into a room that is going to go 21 blocks tall and is 11 by 11. Now, I am going to be using, once I get this room sort of put together and kind of cleared out, I am going to go ahead and send you guys over on the Discord. So if you want to hop on the Discord and get these for yourself, you definitely can. I am going to be posting over there the templates for the copy paste gadget. So if you want to be able to use this and copy it into your own world, then you're more than happy to do that. It'll be pinned in the general chat, so definitely check that out. I'll be putting both rooms, this room right here and this room over there. Honestly, just as a way to say thank you guys for watching this content, as I really do appreciate you guys taking the time to literally watch and possibly learn something throughout this series. Because honestly, without you guys watching, I don't think I'd be able to publish videos like this. So now after a little bit of dabbling and decorating, this right here is essentially what I've come up with. Now, this one doesn't have hanging lights because, like I said, the potential of having really tall structures is kind of what these are going to be designed for. And we can place them in all of the four corners, giving us 8 separate rooms for this setup. Now, this is always just so satisfying to watch. So I've got this done now, so I can just simply exchange out the blocks that exist here, and it just builds the room and clears the room. Oh, it's just so satisfying watching this happen. Oh man, I can't give a props enough, man. Every time I use a copy paste tool, a building gadget, I mean, all of this, like, that is fantastic looking. I'm just gonna say the amount of time that I've just saved from using these tools is insane. So then, just to kind of blend things together and make it look a little bit more natural, I'll just throw in a few of these blocks here, kind of connect them into the bottom down like so, and beautiful. It all kind of looks connected now. So now that I have some space, it's time to set up the thermal evaporation tower. Yes, we're going to be evaporating liquids down and converting them into different components. But the primary reason that I want to do this is so that way I can get myself an atomic disassembler. This thing is fantastic. It is a great tool, and I know we already have the Eclipse Alloy Paxel, which can insta-break blocks. Don't get me wrong, this pick is amazing. But what is going to make this even better is having access to the atomic disassembler as well in my hotbar, as this thing, I believe, can insta-break just about anything. And that would include moss blocks, which this kind of struggles with. And there's also several other blocks that, well, the Eclipse Paxel just doesn't handle very well. And another cool side note, that the atomic disassembler also has the ability for me to control how quickly I break things. So maybe I don't want to, for example, break a block instantaneously, as that can lead to breaking the block behind it and many other things in the future. And I want to be precise. This tool right here allows me to adjust the speed. So that is going to be very handy for those times where I need to be a bit more careful. And if you've ever played with mechanism, you might understand why I would want to be careful. Okay, so I don't need to worry about being careful just yet, but in the future, we will have to worry about accidentally breaking things, because it could lead to a catastrophic meltdown in our base, irradiating the entire area, and I really don't want to have to deal with that. Now, these tall rooms are also going to be pretty handy if I want to make a fission reactor, which we are going to need a fission reactor in the future. So I'll be able to put a fission reactor inside of this room, and we can make it nice and tall, which will be pretty nice, and keep it within this bounds as well. Okay. I need to quit procrastinating, and I need to actually start working on this thing. So yes, we are going to need that brine, and we're going to need to convert brine into lithium, which all starts with water. And like I said, the main reason we need this is because of this recipe right here. And I don't know if this was specifically changed. I do know that the Adamantium pickaxe, of course, is a dead giveaway that this is not the default recipe. But I don't know if in this version it has been changed for this to use a basic induction cell, because if it is, then that means that anytime now in the future, if you want to make this, you're going to have to set up this, this thermal evaporation tower. Okay, so let's take a look at lithium dust. Now, we are going to need a crystallizer, a chemical crystallizer. This thing, by the way, does require refined obsidian. This is one of the primary reasons why we set up automation for this a few episodes ago. So if you want to check out that video, you can definitely check it out, take a look at the playlist, and you will find how I went about automating all of the alloys and also refined obsidian. It's actually pretty straightforward and easy now that we have advanced AE. Then we need to take a look at how do we get this lithium. So if we click this, notice there's a runic processor, there's a chemical oxidizer, and there's a decondensating rotary condensator. That's a lot of words, right? So we do have to feed it, and we're kind of working backwards. I need to get the rotary condensator here, but this is basically taking something and converting it into another thing. So I believe the lithium that it's showing inside of the chemical crystallizer is taking a chemical, not a normal fluid. So consider this kind of like a gas. So we need liquid lithium, and not flowing, by the way, just liquid lithium. And then when we look at the liquid lithium, that's where things start to take place. So we have a thermal evaporation controller, we have a thermal evaporation valve, and a thermal evaporation block. So this is just to come from flowing brine. So brine is something we need to work towards. And to get brine, it's in the same block. So when we take a look at this, it's done in the same sort of thing, just requiring water to be turned into brine. Okay, so now we know we need 2 evaporation towers. And that's going to be kind of important, right? Is to figure this out. We're going to have 2 of these big old things in here. And I am going to make them the max size, which is going to be 18 blocks tall. So now that we have an understanding, when we craft this, I need to kind of have an idea of how many of these thermal evaporation valves we're going to need. So these are going to be the input ports and the output ports, but it's also going to be where we can put heat, because these towers typically require heat. And because we're underground, we're going to have to go about it without using solar panels, but instead using a block that takes energy to generate heat. And that block needs to be attached to a valve. So if we're sending water in and we're also pulling a product out, we also need another valve for our heat to go in. So each one of these towers are going to need at least 3 valves. Now, something else is pretty cool. If you take a look at the thermal evaporation block and you hit U over it, there is a building thermal evaporation from just enough mechanism multi-blocks. So you can see right here, we don't want use structural glass. Like, I don't think I want to use, I didn't even know you could use structural glass, but apparently you can use structural glass in here. I don't know if I really want that. It says use advanced solar generator. That is going to be a nope. And what we want is 3 valves. That's perfect. And then our height is kind of what matters. So we're going to bring this all the way up to max, which is 18. And it tells us exactly how many blocks we're going to need. So 212 thermal evaporation blocks is what we're going to need for this. Now, I'm just now noticing this, but it does need this bronze recipe right here, which is done inside of the metallurgic infuser. And yeah, I think this might be something that we could use this far side for right here. That's just doing basic circuits. So that way I could go ahead and set that automation up for that. Now with this, we can do a little bit of math. So right here, we're going to have to keep in mind that this one enriched tin is going to produce 80, and each one of these crafts, meaning it's going to be times 8 for each of these outputs right here. So we just do 3 times 8 and we'll get ourselves 24, and then it'll be 4 times 8, and that's how many bronze we're going to need. And we kind of need to reflect that inside of here, and then we're also going to need 10. I believe mechanism adds that. There we go. Enriched tin. So perfect. So yes, 24. And we could do all of this math in here too, I guess. You could do 4 times, what was it, 8 is what we're going to need. And that will set it to 34 or 32. And this should be equal amounts to be able to get this product. And then toss that inside of an advanced pattern encoder and we are ready to rock and roll. I forget though what direction. This was on the south face of the back. No, north face. We need the north face right here to be where this gets sent. Everything else is fine. And we need to save, back out and save, right? No, not back out and save. How do I actually, oh, I got to pull the pattern out. I keep forgetting to do that. And like this whole interface is kind of wonky, but there we go. Perfect. Now it should be saved. And then I can put that in there and let's go ahead and double test bronze. This is going to be really important actually for making all of these. Mech. I think we have enough bronze, right? Let's go ahead and try. Making tin, that'll do that recipe, and there we go. So bronze is crafted up. A trial and error, but yeah, this setup is super nice. So now because I'm building 2 towers, 424 of these bad boys. Replan, there we go. And this is going to really start to kick off. Still a little blown away by how fast that quantum crafter is. It insta crafted that essentially. So now let's build this. And if you're a little bit OCD, you're going to absolutely love that this multi-block is actually a 2x2 in scale. But that is going to be completely fine because it's going to give us some room to be able to, for example, play with some things, right? Now I could use this room to do multiple actually. We might even be able to fit this all into one space. I'm just going to need to clear out some of this moss. Man, it'd be really nice if I had that atomic disassembler. But yes, this is a 2x2, so we've got to keep that in mind whenever we build this out. So I'm thinking maybe right here we start off, and then that means this is going to be the outside of the machine. It's going to be a 4-block by 4-block with the interior space being 2. Now I kind of want to have mine hugging the wall though. I think that's going to look a little bit nicer. And it's not going to really change much. We can put the inputs and stuff kind of wherever we want. And when building this thing, oh man, building gadgets, really helpful for this. So I've gone up 18 blocks. Now 18 blocks though from the bottom, like from down here all the way up to 18. I think this is the max size. We're going to be able to find that out whenever we place in our ports. But for right now, I'm going to place in a port here, and then we're going to have a port that is going to be back here. This is going to be like the input for the water, the output into the other machine, and then we need a spot for our controller and a spot for our heater. So right here, we can put another input that'll be like for our heat, and then our controller, which can go right here. Now, it did form. Now, something I do want to try out, though, is if I place another on the top, will this also form? That will let me know if it is from the bottom or if it's from right here. Because I've actually not built one that has been this tall. So, yes. Okay, so it is 18 from this bottom block all the way up. So that's something to kind of note. But those particles are exactly what we're looking for. And this is what this crazy looking multi-block looks like. I do want to try using structural glass in this though. That's so cool. I've never used structural glass inside of these before, but it totally works. You can definitely use structural glass and the whole thing forms. That's pretty sick. So now let's talk about heat because these look really cool in here. I do have to admit, this is pretty sick. But heat. Now, the way we get these to work is we could either use like a fuel wood heater or we can use a resistive heater. And a resistive heater lets us kind of control sort of the exact amount of heat that we're going to want. Now, to get this to work, you do have to place it on a valve. I know this can kind of be an issue. I feel like I didn't really know this early on when I was starting to learn mechanism, but after I figured that out, I really don't want to use any other method for generating heat. Even though, however, there are other options and there's also heat pipes. So technically we could use like one resistive heater to potentially like heat up both areas. I love how I just realized I ran out of tin. I'm going to have to make a tin seed. So a simple boop and boop. So perfect. Now that I have both of these, I'm actually going to place, I think the resistive heater. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to place it right here on the front. Same for this one as well. Like I said, we do have heat pipes. So that's another thing we could do is like place this on the ground technically, and then use like a heat pipe. I'm pretty sure there's a heat pipe, right? Yes, these right here. They're called thermodynamic conductors. And yes, I think we can place them just like this. And so they'll connect and grab heat from here and send heat into the controller. Now, this is going to need power, and technically it had a little bit of power stored in it from when it was in my inventory, and you can see the heat is going up. But we are going to need to adjust these to like the optimal level. Now what I'm going to do is place some power on the back, but inside of the machine is actually where we control the throughput. So as of right now, it's only using 40 FE per tick, and it's only going to generate heat that 40 FE per tick is constantly supplying. So if we wanted to increase this, we can say 100. This will then switch to 100 FE per tick, and it's going to start increasing that temperature. We got to get that temperature up to a nice, comfortable point inside of this thermal evaporation plant. And for this, it's just going to be a matter of us sort of playing around. Like, how much is 1,000 FE per tick going to provide for us, right? Because I can easily forego 1,000 each to see that temperature start to rise. It's going to take a little bit of time, but we'll start to see this temperature increase. So let's go ahead and get this party started. Now, to get the fluid in here, we are going to use a sink. This is going to be the easiest way to get water in here, and I'm not even going to need any AE or anything for this. So this is going to start filling up, and you can see brine is already being produced in large quantities. Why having a sink is really nice. So that brine then needs to be pulled out and just simply sent into this one, just like this. And then that brine is just going to be an instantly basically, well, can't say instantly because the higher the heat, the faster this goes. But yes, it's going to be converting that brine at a certain rate and is going to be sending that over here. And so this is scalable, so we can have as much as we're going to need probably with these towers. We may need more towers in the future, but we have tons of space for stuff like that. So that's where these rooms are really going to come into play. Now, we need to take this and we need to send it into a rotary condensator. And this is where things get a little bit interesting because we're not going to be using the condensator normally. So I just place it down facing this way. And so on the machine config, we're going to take a look at fluids. We want to make sure that it's an input here. And we want to make sure this is toggled to decondensating mode. So yes, as a condensating to make like certain, I think steam and stuff like that from water, but you want decondensating. That's kind of the confusing part about this multi-block. It's kind of 2-in-1. And then we want to output the new chemical to the top. So I'm going to clear this and I'm just going to say auto eject to the top of the machine. And we're going to send that directly into a crystallizer. So the crystallizer then, we need to make sure that the bottom is set to an input and it can automatically accept chemicals through the bottom. And then we want that to then send the final product that it crystallizes through the item output. And so I'll clear this, make sure that, yeah, this is clear. We just want it to be outputting and auto ejecting to the top. And so I can just run a cable right into here from this. And this, by the way, needs to be a pipe or a tube. This needs to be a tube, right? Because this is a chemical that is going to be, actually, no, we don't need a tube. We need a regular pipe because we're sending liquid lithium out. All right, so it's going to look like this. This is not going to connect. We do need to make sure, though, that this is an input side. Let me just make sure I place the machine correctly. There we go. And input, fluids, input. I think I accidentally cleared everything. Okay, so now it's connected. And here we go. So we can go ahead and pull this out. It's going to go into this machine. It's going to get converted into lithium. Lithium then is going to go into here, and that's going to start getting crystallized. Just got to get power to these machines and get them upgraded. And then to send this back into our main system, just place a DIM on here, and I now have lithium dust going into that DIM, which I can then just place inside of my central storage. Man, I really need to satisfy that like symmetrical monkey brain part of me. I really want this to look very similar to the other side. So there we go. Okay, so I'm just going to pull water from right here. And I mean, just look at this from this side. That is so cool looking. And the fact that we can now see the water in here, and if brine built up, we'd see the brine in the tower. That's so cool. This actually makes me like these more. But thankfully, the more heat that I give this, the faster it's going to go. And I'm giving it like 5,000 FE per tick each on each resistive heater. And it looks like this is now climbing to over 1 bucket per tick at this rate. So yeah, this is producing way faster than this can definitely handle. We will have leftover, but once it builds up, I mean, these will still need to be probably changed. But yeah, once it builds up, then they're kind of just going to be a decorative piece until we need another reason to use them. Now, don't get me wrong, we need a ton of lithium. So I'm going to be making some speed upgrades to make sure our machines are nice and fast, and then also energy upgrades just to make sure that everything is working there as well. I don't think these get gas upgrades, do they? This is just energy, and then the rotary condensator is just energy and speed as well. Oh man, but with that heat, look at that. It's starting to fill up. We can actually see the brine starting to increase as the lithium has then maxed out. Perfect. And so now that we have lithium, the moment of truth, I can now make an atomic disassembler, and I can easily craft a basic induction cell. So let's go ahead and string all of these parts together, and perfect. Oh boy. There we go. Atomic disassembler ready to go. So this is pretty cool. I do kind of want to test, can it insta brake? If you hit in, you can change your speed, and I want to set this to fast, and will it insta brake? Yes. So this is what I mean. There are just some things that it's just really nice to use this tool on. There's not a lot that this cannot, like, basically insta brake. And for the things that it can't technically insta brake, well, that's why we have the Paxel here, because it can do it. No, it's a little weird that this doesn't like literally break everything with the insta brake, but maybe eventually it might. For right now though, we will have to keep our eyes out on this tool, as this is going to be my primary tool for the most part. Plus, I mean, come on, this thing is gorgeous looking. I mean, even after all of these years, I still love this tool. So now this production that you see behind me has a ton of other uses technically, and is actually a component to one of the best ways to generate power within Mechanism. And that is to make DT fuel for the fusion reactor later on down the road to make tritium. Tritium does require lithium, and it's just a conversion using the solar neutron activator to do this conversion. So it is pretty important for this particular setup. And brine has another powerful use. Brine can be used, for example, you see right here, inside of an electrolytic separator to separate into a part sodium and a part chlorine. And so you will end up splitting both of these, and whenever you do this, you'll have chlorine, which I do believe has uses. I know sodium is used for a fusion reactor to make a sodium-cooled fusion reactor. Chlorine, I believe, has a use inside of the ore processing mechanic, if I remember correctly. Yeah, making hydrogen chloride. Yeah, which is a part of the chemical ore processing setup. So I would definitely bookmark this video if this is something that you're going to need to reference in the future. And something to just remember, the more that you need of each of these things, just give your heat resistive heater some more power, basically. So the more power you give it, the more heat it's going to produce, and the faster your production rate is ultimately going to be because of that. Well, up to a certain point, and that's why I built these their max size. This will allow for the max heat transfer, essentially future-proofing this setup. And like I said, we may have to build more than one. But I'll tell you what, we are now one step closer to our Mechanism industrialization. That's right, because next episode, we're going to be diving into some more Mechanism-related topics. For example, getting ourselves some fissile fuel set up, which I think will be really nice in helping us get ourselves access to polonium and plutonium, which we're going to need for some more advanced crafting recipes. But guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Hope you learned something new. If you did, be sure to click that subscribe button and, well, give this video, guys, a huge thumbs up. And also, while you're checking out those buttons, might as well comment down below. What's your favorite part of Mechanism? Of course, if you've made it this far in the video, you answering that question will let me know that you've made it this far. And of course, guys, with that being said, it's now time to thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. And that amazing thanks is going to go out to none other than Crypt Sarko. Thank you so much, by the way, for your amazing support and choosing to support me over on the Discord by becoming a Discord premium member and, of course, supporting in one of the best ways possible. Thank you all so very much. Guys, I hope to see you in the next one and furthering our All the Mods journey. And as always, thanks for watching.